Hey guys, welcome back. I gotta tell you, I'm pretty exhausted. I just spent the last 2 hours shoveling 10 inches of heavy snow outside. I don't know why I live up north. Anyways, so I got a question today that was from a young angler who said, that they know in order to excel in the sport, they need to start fishing deeper. They need to become better electronics fishermen. And the question was, how do I go about doing that? So I want to say that, I couldn't agree more with this young angler. I mean, it's really, in my opinion, the number one way to win. It's a good way. Fishing offshore is a good way to find untouched fish. You can find a spot to yourself, and it's just they're not pressured nearly as much. And a lot of times you have a better shot at finding a group of fish. Now, whether that's a group of 3 or a group of 300, you're gonna be able to find groups of fish offshore more likely than you will if you're just going down the bank. Yes, you may find a dock or a tree that's got some fish in it, but man, I just feel like you have a better shot at winning tournaments if you're fishing offshore. So I couldn't agree more that if you're an angler looking to excel, looking to move up to the next level, you definitely need to make sure that you can fish offshore. You can get by in a lot of tournaments. You can get by, beating the bank, but there's a lot of events, specifically like ledge fishing tournaments during, the Tennessee River Lakes during the month of May and June. It's just like that's what you need to do if you want to compete. And to be honest with you, it's the area that I would consider probably my biggest weakness as well. A lot of that has to do with the fact that fishing up north here, a lot of our fish are relatively shallow year-round. I do fish, ultra deep for smallmouth, but man, I feel like smallmouth are a different breed, and that's something I feel really comfortable with. But when I go down south looking for largemouth and just fish in general, it's a different type of lake setup. So it's an area that I've consistently worked on. And I'm a lot better now fishing offshore, specifically like ledge fishing events than I used to be. But it's an area that everyone needs to have in their repertoire if they're going to be a successful tournament fisherman. So the question is, how do you get better, or what should they do? And the first thing I think everyone should do when they get some of these new high-tech, cool electronics is go to the bank. I really think you want to take your electronics, go to the bank, and scan around and look at objects that are there, so you can compare what they look like with your eyes to what you see on your screen. So, whether it's the new active target or you're still looking at some sort of side scanning technology, go down a row of docks, go down a seawall. You'll be able to see exactly, what that seawall looks like, where the corners are. If you go down a row of docks, you'll be able to see what the dock posts look like, how the shadows relate to those dock posts. There's a lot of good things that you can find by using your electronics really shallow. Now, I'm not saying that, those are items you're going to fish based on your electronics. I just want you to understand your electronics and what you're seeing on the screens. And if you can scan something that you can visually see, it's going to make you understand what your electronics are trying to tell you a lot faster than if you just jumped out into 30 feet of water and you just tried to interpret what you're seeing. So that's the number one thing. I think you want to scan down the shoreline and look at boat launches, boat docks, things that you can see. Once you've done that, my advice then in terms of catching fish is to go look for obvious spots. And usually obvious spots are like hard bottom areas. So in my opinion, what you're going to be looking for are anywhere you've got tight contour lines. You know, if you've got a sharp break, usually the top of that break is going to have a hard bottom on it. If you've got current in your lake, anywhere you get a deflection of that current, you're going to have a hard bottom, whether it's a shell bed or, you know, a rock area or a gravel patch. But if you've got an area where that channel, that river channel swings, you're probably going to have a hard bottom along the side of it. Same thing, it doesn't have to be actual, you know, water current driven by like natural current. It could be wind current. If you've got areas that produce a lot of natural current based on, say, the wind, you'll probably have hard bottom areas as well. You know, so you're looking for pinch points or, you know, the tips of points. You know, you're really just looking for anywhere you think a current, whether it's you know, generated current or whether it's wind current, is going to actually have a deflection of some sort. But if you can find those areas, you're going to have hard spots most likely associated with them. You know, if you're looking at a contour map and you see a submerged island, or you've got a point with a high spot on it, normally those are going to be hard spots. And the fish just generally will relate to the hard spots better than, you know, other areas, other sand or mud areas. So I always encourage people to go look for hard spots first. I think those are kind of the high percentage spots, and they're easy to find with your electronics. You know, they usually stand out pretty well. You can usually pick them out on a map and say, I think there's going to be hard spots here, and then you go and graph it, and you can find them with your graphs. So that's, you know, that's my first thing I would do once I'm actually looking for fish out deeper. After you've done that, my second recommendation would be to head to areas that are not like that. If you've got the time just to spend graphing, I really, really like to graph bare, flat areas. Because if you can graph a giant big flat in, say, 10, 12, 15 feet of water, and you find an isolated object on that, you know, in that area, the chances are there's going to be fish holding within that isolated object. It's more time intensive to do that. It's hard for me to do that sometimes in tournaments. If I've, you know, got really limited practice days, you don't find a whole lot of stuff when you're just graphing barren areas. But when you find them, they can be really good, and a lot of times you have it to yourself. So, you know, that would be my number two thing. Head for areas that are not, don't stand out on the map, and just graph around. And a lot of times you might find a submerged brush pile, or you'll just find crazy stuff. I've seen cars, I've seen sunken boats, dock sections, you name it. There's random stuff laying at the bottom of the lake. And if you can, you know, find it with your graph, you're probably going to have it to yourself. And there's probably at least one fish that's relating to that object. And a lot of times those are the ones that reload really fast too, because it's the only thing around for those fish to hold to. So guys, those are my, you know, the very first things I would recommend doing once you want to try to become a better deep water fisherman. You know, it is more than anything else in our sport of fishing. I feel like, you know, you can have giant schools of fish to yourself if you spend the time looking offshore. But it's one of those things that you have to spend the time doing. It's really one of those things where experiences make you a better fisherman. And the more you can interpret what you're seeing on your graphs, the better you're going to be at fishing offshore. And the only way to do that, you got to get out there and do it. You got to get out there and graph and know that you might graph for 3 hours and never make a cast. But it's worth it if you can find that one spot. So that's my advice, guys. Get out there, try to fish a little bit more offshore, get yourself some good electronics. I love my Lowrance units, and see what you can do, see what you can find. So thanks for watching, guys. If you like it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already, and leave me some comments. If you got some other good suggestions for new anglers who want to fish offshore, leave a comment so that we can all see it and learn from what you have to say as well. Thanks for watching, guys.